Just this past week, Stephen Miller dared ICE agents to up their quota to 3,000 arrests a day, prompting ICE to move into the sanctuary city of Los Angeles. Sanctuary cities, if you don't know, if you're not from the US and you're not familiar with this concept, sanctuary cities allow for immigrants to cooperate with law enforcement without fear of being deported, essentially. Because in a lot of these major cities, they were finding that a lot of crime was going unreported, and it was a good chunk of it was because people were afraid to cooperate with law enforcement out of fear of being deported. So they created this system, but then the law enforcement ended up once again turning on these people. There have been raids in other sanctuary cities like Chicago, for example. That's, I'm pretty sure, where Trump started his tirade. Miller encouraged agents to use disgusting tactics like stalking day laborers at Home Depot. This administration, as I've covered in the past, claims that they are deporting criminals, but are going into schools and places of businesses and targeting authorized workers. Now make it make sense. Those two don't go together. I don't know what, gang members that are freaking staying outside of a Home Depot. Maybe a Walmart. Okay, I could see a Walmart. But a Home Depot, which is obviously a well-known system within LA or maybe across the country, I don't know, that day laborers go to? Girl, you're a lie, and you know it. A liar and a fraud. This is actually, there was a lot of reports on the news about this causing people to not even want to go to work out of fear of being deported. And honestly, some of those people that might be afraid might be American citizens or have visas, because especially with the freaking precedent that the Trump administration has set over the past few months, detaining people like Mahmoud Khalil, Rameza Ozturk, the list goes on, people that have visas that are legal residents here. Obviously, they could go after anyone, and a lot of times these ICE raids work like dragnets. They go in for maybe a specific place and they end up capturing way more people. Some of those people might end up being American citizens. They just detain and they sort it out later. Similarly to Eisenhower, as I also covered. Girl, I've realized over the past few months that this is just how this is gonna be. I'm gonna have to reiterate stuff a lot, which is okay, because hopefully we'll all come to a consensus eventually. But just like in Eisenhower, they did the exact same thing. It was a dragnet that ended up deporting American citizens. Obviously, protests broke out because LA didn't like their community being ripped apart, and out of retaliation for people using their First Amendment right. Girl, if you're just gonna punish people for protesting, you might as well just, why did we put that in the Constitution at this point? Because I'm confused. Because every time people protest, you claim it's unlawful whenever it's peaceful. So, girl, you might as well just not put it in the Constitution at this point. But Trump also deployed 700 Marines and the National Guard to LA in retaliation to these protests. The National Guard has been stated to be there to protect ICE as it carries out these arrests. As I've seen other people point out online, it's kind of funny that you need the National Guard to guard ICE, which is armed to the freaking gills. But okay. The National Guard isn't supposed to be deployed by the president, actually, but by the governor. But Trump bypassed both the governor and the mayor of Los Angeles and took hold of the California National Guard. And the National Guard actually sets a chilling precedent if we think about instances like Kent State, where during the Vietnam War, whenever protests were also erupting in a similar fashion, the Ohio National Guard was deployed to Kent State University, and they ended up killing 4 people and injuring a good amount more. Marines have rarely, if ever, been deployed on US soil. That's just, I feel like we should all know this, but that's just not their purpose at all. That's not really what they do. Have you ever watched One Piece? LAPD themselves is already a brutal militarized force. They have several factions, like the regular LAPD, and then they also have the sheriff's department, which has gangs, very well-known gangs within it. They're already a pretty brutal, like I said, force that is armed to the gills themselves. But now Trump is sicking the military, as he proposed in the past before he actually took the presidency, on US citizens to brutalize them even further. Now, as these raids spread across the country, according to YouGov, the approval rating of Trump's handling of deportations is plummeting and protests are erupting. In fact, as of the day I'm filming this, there was actually the No Kings protest that was a lot bigger of an audience than the protests that were happening in Los Angeles, where liberals and wine moms and even the elderly, you know, everyone came out. There has been a little bit of criticism as to like the organization of the protest and like what was the purpose of it. Was it to protest ICE? Was it to be like just anti-Trump in general? Was it, you know? But I think it's ultimately a good thing to protest, and I think for the most part it was used as an anti-ICE protest. At least that's what I saw for the most part. These protests were in New York and obviously Los Angeles and even in my home state Texas, which is actually quite surprising. And these raids are spreading. They started in blue states and sanctuary cities, but they're actually now spreading to other parts like Washington, Omaha, Nebraska, and this will surely bring outrage to even people who voted for Trump as they see their communities get ripped apart and just see how sadly a lot of the time people need to see just how brutal this operation is and this policy in place before they actually are like, okay, well, I voted for this, but maybe like we shouldn't be doing this. Sadly, sometimes it takes until it's already happening for people to come to that realization. But every time protests erupt, specifically in the US, mainstream media is quick to lick the boot. But now, as online spaces have been infested with right-wing sentiment, the narrative has only spread further. So I want to contrast the prevailing narrative of the protest as monstrous, organized crime with the reality of the situation. Who is truly doing the violence? The protesters or the police? But before we get into any of that, I would like to ask you to subscribe. I'm very close to 7K. Hopefully we can get there eventually. Hopefully. I don't know. I also have socials like TikTok and Instagram, Patreon, where you can see exclusive content of how I make videos just like this from start to finish. Also have Discord, where you can connect with your fellow community members. And on the topic of Patreon, if you just want to support, you can give $1 over there, or here on YouTube, where you get cute emotes. You can put them in the chat, a badge that I'll eventually fix, hopefully, maybe. But we have a saying over here: scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds. If you've ever seen the response from liberal and right-wing media, there's honestly not that much of a difference between the two, especially when it comes to certain issues, and protests are definitely one of those issues. One of the main things I saw was, why are people waving the Mexican flag? Carlos Mucha on Twitter says, if protesters don't get that carrying any flag other than the stars and stripes hurts their cause, I don't know what that acronym means. I'm not quite sure. I'm scared it's a slur. It's Twitter. I don't know what that means. And he has a picture of honestly the hardest photo you've ever seen in your life on the left. The hardest photo. A guy with a Mexican flag on a motorbike with the police behind him. The smoke, it goes hard as hell. And then he has the soy right. Just crickets, girl, crickets. Cause what the hell is this? Look at the socks. The socks with the freaking, is that a dog? What is that? What's going on here? Then we have Nick Shirley, who is a Tyler Oliveira wannabe, who says anti-ICE protesters wave the Mexican flag at LA protests. Now this video is just such a false assertion, because if he asked this dude what's the purpose of bringing out the flag, it almost makes me feel like these videos are staged, because if you go up to anybody at these protests, they can tell you why they're waving the Mexican flag. And honestly, you don't even need to go up to them. We're in freaking California. We're in Los Angeles. If you need to go up to someone to ask them why they're waving a Mexican flag, girl, I'm gonna need you to ask yourself some questions. Because did you not go to elementary school? This is just basic history. Once again, I ask, what are we doing here? I don't know if, Nick Shirley and these other people are aware of this, but like a big chunk at the bottom of the US used to be Mexican territory. I know, especially as someone from Texas, another state that was literally a part of Mexico, just like California was. So it's not really strange at all for you to see Mexican flags being waved in California or Texas or any place in the southwestern United States. Because guess what? We got a lot of Mexicans and they're proud to be Mexican. That's crazy. Whoa, that's crazy. It's just like the most average thing ever to see, like ever. And ICE is mostly targeting Mexican immigrants.
Why do you think he was singled out?
Because he spoke Spanish.
So they're just driving through the neighborhood, they see your business and they just come up and
it's not about seeing business. It's about seeing Hispanics on the road. If you see Hispanics, they're tagging us and saying, hey, so most likely we're gonna find undocumented here.
So you think they're racial profiling?
They're racial profiling.
That is like one of the only redeeming parts about the US is that it is incredibly diverse and people come from all walks of life, and so you can see a wide range of flags and people showcasing their ancestry everywhere. The two aren't mutually exclusive. Just because you're waving the Mexican flag doesn't mean that you want to be deported. I don't know why he thinks that at all. And also, just to counteract this question in the first place, there's actually a video of a dude with an American flag getting pummeled by the police. He's also an anti-ICE protester, but he's got an American flag, as these people want for some reason, and he still gets pummeled by the police after they provoke him. He literally wasn't doing anything. He was just standing at the front of the line, as you do in a protest sometimes, and the police were just like, I don't like your vibes. And then they just started provoking him, and then they literally attacked him while his back was turned, like the freaking pussies that they are. Obviously the optics of what flag you're holding don't matter when you're facing off against these pigs. They're hungry, they're ravenous. If you know anything about pigs, they'll eat any and everything. They don't give a fuck. That's actually like a great freaking analogy. Like, I just kind of popped off. And they really will eat any and everything. If you're the press, they'll eat you. If you're an unarmed protester, they'll eat you. If you're a black person, they'll eat you. If you're white, they'll eat you. Disabled girl, they don't care. They will come for you. That flashbang is heading your way. People have also been using the image of MLK to criticize these protesters. Obviously, in like liberal democracies, we have the standard that like protests have to be non-violent. They have to be peaceful. Unless you're in France, in which they like, it's the standard for the exact opposite to happen. Which I love that France just goes crazy. Like, freaking Macron tried to up the retirement age. He tried. And they tore that city up. They tore Paris up, as they should. I love that. I love that about them. We love that. But all we get is a freaking tweet from Drew Pavlo, who's like, you actually have to care about how you present your movement to the public. And he's got, once again, what is up with these people? These blue checkmark guys on Twitter who post the hardest photos and are against them. How, like, this, his drip is immaculate. I can't even speak. It's so amazing. It's just the hardest freaking photo op I've ever seen. And then obviously the GOAT. Obviously. But like, I don't think this photo on the left is like doing any harm to this movement. Like, it honestly probably makes people more on board. And then we have Bernie Sanders saying Dr. King defeated racist government officials and ended segregation through disciplined nonviolent resistance. Defeating Trumpism, oligarchy, and authoritarianism requires that same level of discipline. Violent protests are counterproductive and play right into Trump's playbook. And as O-Dog has beautifully put, a riot is the language of the unheard. Why, I want to ask this question, why are Drew Pavlo, a disgusting online freak, and Bernie Sanders on the exact same side? Once again, what the hell is happening? Tweet from Hassan perfectly sums this up, tops it off, puts the cherry on top. We were literally there at the non-violent protest that everyone considered to be violent and unpopular, so I have no idea what this statement does other than lean into the hysteria that gives Trump enough momentum to mobilize the Marines on US soil illegally. Once again, another correct take on top. Mr. Perry says they could burn 1,000 Waymos to stop one deportation and it would still be morally correct. People matter more than property. Okay, Twitter, I see you. I see you today, Twitter. As Hassan points out, Bernie Sanders was literally there during the civil rights movement. And I don't mean like he was alive. I mean, he was literally on the ground right next to MLK, basically. He was a very famous participant, but he must have somehow through the years forgotten how unpopular these peaceful protests were back then. As the poll that Hassan posted shows, and as it's very well known, MLK was super unpopular at the time of his death. And while he was doing these peaceful protests, once again, optics, similar with the American flag versus Mexican flag, the optics literally don't matter, peaceful or not. If your mobilization breaks the status quo in any way, liberals and right-wingers will be against it. That's the only deciding factor in this. It's stupid for Bernie Sanders to even bring up people setting Waymos on fire because the majority of the movement is peaceful and it only concedes to Trump's framing, despite what he says that it turning non-violent in like in very small cases is doing it. Well, your statement is playing into this like liberal framing too. It only justifies Trump doing his actions. Then we have Aaron Burnett from CNN just plain out lying about protesters shooting rubber bullets.
Trying to do this and keep the microphone up before it gets really loud if they start firing again. These are what people in the crowd have been firing at the ground. Those cause some of the explosions.
What?
Like a foam thing. You can smell the explosive on it. That causes the police to immediately respond.
What?
Charge. And we've seen a lot of people fall. We actually, our shot was down for a couple minutes here because we were running a little bit out of breath. Just because you have to get away from them. They just start running.
What are those?
Start firing a lot.
Wait, does anybody know what those are?
Yeah, and then there was an arrest back there that now I can't see. But when there
Aaron,
was a
I'm going to
protester
give you
that fell
another
over and the
second.
police and the protester were.
I'm going to give you another second to catch your breath. Stay with us, but
What are
a
those?
second to catch your breath. John Miller.
Those are foam ammunition?
Dusk.
Somebody has to know what they actually are, though.
This is often.
They're 40 millimeter rubber rounds, with the blue one, but what are the smaller ones? I think it's just like the bottom of that thing.
Going to become the issue for law enforcement.
What?
What do you think?
The crazy thing is for her to be able to like point out that there's rubber bullets, I'm pretty sure she picked one up. In order for her to be able to do that, the freaking police would have had to shoot that at her, and she still had the audacity to be like, no, actually this 40 millimeter rubber bullet, it came from the protesters. Who are you fooling? Only state officials can get access to that type of ammunition. It's just a freaking dastardly lie. Like, at least the looting and the Waymos being set on fire, at least that was actually done. But you're just going so far of your way to make it up. Now we also have another saying, Chinga La Migra, or ICE. The real violence is coming from the police who use military grade weapons like tear gas, rubber bullets, flashbangs on unarmed protesters. These are things that you freaking can use in Call of Duty and CSGO as shown in a military setting. These are things that they literally sometimes use in military war settings, and they are using them on unarmed protesters, which is freaking insane when you just take the time to think about it. Less than lethal rounds are actually still lethal, as they say on the cartridges, especially at close distances, and they shouldn't be shot at someone's body but at the ground. Now I can't hide it anymore, but I watch Hassan a lot, and I've been watching his protest streams a lot. I didn't expect the King's protest in LA to be, I thought it would be actually the chillest because there were liberals and elderly people out there, but literally there was a footage of a rubber bullet zooming at freaking eye level past them, and then it shot someone in the head. You are not supposed to shoot a rubber bullet that high. There's no reason why a rubber bullet should be weaving past my head. It should be at the ground as it says on the cartridge, but they intentionally shoot it through the crowd at, you know, chest level. I've seen a lot of people with wounds in their like stomach, and this other protester got shot in the head. Like, they should be sued for this. It's insane. And you actually can't use tear gas in war because it violates the Geneva Conventions. So if you can't use it in a war setting, why the hell can you use it against unarmed protesters? These are the questions that mainstream media should be asking, but they're not. The dichotomy and the contrast between the power level between an unarmed protester and the police and the types of weapons that they're using is insane. And the fact that we don't question this more and we just accept it, it blows my mind. Honestly, during BLM, I feel like I don't want to say accepted that, but I never really took the time to think about how freaking insane it is that it's just in America, it's just freaking the status quo for them to do that. But when you take the time to think about it, it's insane that they're using this stuff against, I can't comprehend it. Police have been intentionally attacking the press. There was a Australian reporter from Sky News, I believe, who was literally intentionally trained down by a pig as he shot his weapon at her. You can see him literally aiming at her and then shooting it at her, and she's the press. Cops have been shooting unarmed protesters point blank, literally declaring that they will shoot them before they do. This one police officer in this video says, "I'm going to pop you right now because you're taking up my focus," and then shoots a rubber bullet once again at close distance. Then another police officer shot a rubber bullet at an anti-ICE protester and then blamed it on the other protesters around her, even though he was the one that shot it, and refused to call the ambulance, even though he's responsible for it. The cops are just so used to getting away with shit that they have a god complex. They have this innate thing within them. Maybe it's built within them whenever they join the force over the years. I don't freaking know how you end up like this, but they just have this innate god complex that, because of the mainstream media narrative that will always defend them, people will always defend them as an institution. They rarely get held accountable, and because of this systematic violence, they know they can point it back at you and nothing will happen. This dude isn't gonna see a freaking, most likely he won't see any repercussions for shooting someone in the head, which can concuss them. People have lost their vision. People have been killed from that. He's not gonna most likely see any repercussions from that. He knows he can get away with it, which is why he can so easily reflect it back at the anti-ICE protesters who are unarmed once again and didn't do anything. He's the one that shot her. Cops trampled a protester with their horse and then slammed him to the ground. And Asmongold, being the disgusting, filthy roach that he is, expressed his support for police officers trampling a subdued protester with their horses. He also said he has no issue with people running over protesters and killing them. Asmongold has a deep respect for the law, except for laws relating to excessive force. But what do we expect from Asmongold? One cop, I don't know if he was the National Guard, the Marines, or maybe just a regular LAPD, but he had a live lethal round, an actual rifle, and he was pointing it at an unarmed protester. And I don't care, obviously these protesters over here are provoking him or whatever, they're, you know, throwing, you know, they're saying kiss my ass and shit, but I don't really care what the frick they're doing. I don't care how much they piss you off. You have no business pointing a live lethal round at an unarmed protester. That's insane. You have to, as a grown man, have a little bit more of composure, surely, than to point 8. Once again, these people know that there's no responsibility for this job. They do not give any craps, and they know they can get away with doing stuff like this. It's insane. So this narrative of protesters being the main perpetrators of violence is completely false. Ask yourself, who has more power in this situation? Who is armed to the gills with weapons that can and have killed or seriously injured people in the past? Because it's not the protesters. Half-empty water bottles or even lime scooters being thrown at the cops is not proportional at all and doesn't call for the amount of force that they use, as I've just given you ample amount of examples of them just completely throwing away any responsibility they have and showcasing what they really are. I would like to remind all of us, it doesn't matter if you're in the States or if you're somewhere else. Remember that the police are there to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to protect the interest of capital. That is what they have historically done, and that is what they will always be there to do. They're not there to protect you. Very rarely do they do that. Their main job is to protect the interests of capital. It goes back to, in my country, it goes back to slave catchers and stomping out the beginnings of union mobilization. I'm sure in other countries it's a similar thing with the union mobilization. That's what they're there to do. So never forget that, because that dynamic has not changed over the years. It does not. Flashbangs that ruin your hearing, tear gas which can impair your vision, and like I once again said, is against the Geneva Conventions in war settings, but not in the US. Rubber bullets which have shot people's eyes out and killed people. Why would the media and people online like Asmongold, XQC, CNN, NBC, why would they cover this in such an insidious way which exalts the damage of property over the lives of human beings? I would also like to forewarn that if you are in the States, this violence is coming to a city near you. Right now, it's only in major cities. As I pointed out, it is expanding to places like Nebraska and other states like Washington. But as it reaches across the country, Trump supporters and liberals will hopefully realize why this kind of mobilization is necessary. Let this be a radicalizing moment for you. Let this be what gives you the momentum necessary to take action. We have been warning about this for months. I made a video back in, what was that, November or early fall, whenever the Haitians eating cats thing was popping off. Obviously, I made a video earlier this year talking about Trump being a fascist and describing similar dynamics and his plans to do this very thing. We, as leftists, have been forewarning this happening for some people for, a year, but people can't understand the gravity of something like this until it affects them, especially in a country like America where we are so selfish and entitled. Sadly, it needs to be in our neighborhood for us to understand the gravity of it. So speak out, join a protest. You'll not only understand what's really happening on the ground, but we also need to make a statement right now that we won't stand for fascism before it's too late. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching and listening to me talk about this. I get very mad talking about cops. Oh my god, I've never cussed so much in a video. I've never. They just make me so angry. Like, oh my god, I'm about to become a freaking police abolitionist, bro, the way I'm speaking. Cause like, god damn, they make me so angry. Cause it's insane, the audacity. Bro, it's freaking insane. And it's the status quo for people to not even realize how insane this shit is. Also, I got, as you can see, you can't see. As you can see, first video with Wano. I need to shoot my videos higher so you can see it, cause that's my crown jewel. That's what's giving me life. That's what's giving me the energy I need to keep going, the motivation. is Luffy right behind, leading the proletariat. That's what I need. That's my boy. I need that. I need that. But yeah, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. I'd like to say thank you to my Patreon members, my YouTube members, all of you. Thank you so much for your support. With that support, I'm saving up for a new computer. I don't know if you can hear, my computer right now is buzzing, girl. She's buzzing. She's loud as hell. She's a yapper. That's what I'm saving up with your Patreon subscriptions, with your love, with your generosity, with your watch time on YouTube. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.